Oh, we're going to be learning some recipes today that will continue to help heal your body. And I do have my notes because I have so many different things. So when I'm looking down, I'm taking a minute to look at my notes. I am going to start then, because we were just talking about eyesight, with the gojiberry or wolfberry. And the gojiberry is, it's this red little berry here. We've met it before. We had it in some other remedies. This time, however, we're going to be pairing it with the astragalus root, and yours might be bigger and look a little bit more like licorice. It really depends how people prepare the astragalus root. And mung beans. Mung beans are a powerhouse food, incredibly complex amino acid structures, and when they're very kind of neutral to cooling on the body, but incredibly nourishing for yin, even though they're a cooling food. And the recipe for this is you take about a tablespoon of goji berries, about 10 to 15 goji berries, and you take about half a cup of the mung beans, and half a cup, a tablespoon of this astragalus root. And you're going to go ahead and you'll take that with 3 to 4 cups of water. So we'll go ahead and take the water and you'll bring that to a boil. So we're going to let that, kind of have that come to a boil. You can make sure when you're using the mung beans that you rinse the mung beans first. These have been rinsed and dried, so that's why they're there. You'll rinse it just to rinse off any dust and to also start the layer. If you want, you can also soak your mung beans overnight. If you don't have time for the full 45 minutes of cooking, if you soak them overnight, 20 minutes is more than enough to give you a nice soft bean that you can eat. A secret to when you make beans, and we're just going to let that come to a boil with the mung beans inside. A secret to beans, a lot of people have problems digesting beans. And the reason is, let me just get a plate for my spoon. They often don't know 2 secrets. One secret is the soaking. So if you have problems digesting beans, make sure that you soak the beans at least 8 hours and up to 24 hours. That breaks down the outer shell, so the digestive process has already begun for you. It really opens up and lets your body absorb what's good. The second secret to beans, whether this is mung beans, aduki beans, kidney beans, black soybeans, white soybeans, any bean, you skim the foam. When you bring the beans to a boil, at a point within the cooking, you are going to notice that there is this foamy layer on top. Sorry, this is kind of stuck. And you want to make sure, this is doing something weird. Okay, there we go. When that foam appears with a spoon, or if you have a small or big, this is really big, but a small strainer, like a mesh strainer like this, you can literally just come in and skim the foam off the top. So that will help reduce the flatulence, the hard digestion, because beans have that protective layer, and you want to start breaking it down to make sure that you can get all of the super good nutrients from it. Our mung beans are coming to the boil. Once they're at the boil, we'll add the astragalus, and then the last 7 minutes, that's when you put in your goji berries. You don't want them to cook a huge amount of time. But this recipe is particularly nourishing for your liver and kidneys and your eyes. It's really, really nourishing for the eyes to raise the qi up. It lets that beneficial qi raise up and get all the way to your head, and it just is nourishing for the eyes. There is one contraindication for the wolfberry or goji berry. If you have diarrhea, if you're prone to diarrhea, would not do more than about 5 to 7 of the goji berries, and I would not do it more than 1 to 2 times per week. As wonderful as the benefits are, they can be very, they moisten, right? They have a moistening effect. So if you've got loose stools, diarrhea in particular, that means there's an imbalance in your spleen, a little bit too much cold. And with the mung beans being cooling and the goji berries, you want to limit that. Now, the astragalus is really great for cooling as well, and for spleen and digestion. This is incredible if you're having problems digesting your food. You do notice that you have soft stools or diarrhea, which means that your spleen is not operating well, then this is good. However, we do have contraindications. This is really important not to do it if you have tested and you have a hot constitution or heart fire, any heat anywhere in the body. Don't do the astragalus. Just do the mung beans and the goji berries, because this really will repress. It'll just kind of boost the heat. But that being said, the other contraindication is don't eat it if you're starting to have symptoms of a flu. When you start to get the flu, you want the fever that comes with it initially. If you stop that fever, the body, and again, this is just Chinese medicine, check with your practitioner. This is just how it's looked at in Chinese medicine. You don't want to stop the fever because you're going to drive the virus, the exogenous pathogen, into the body. When we first get a flu and have a fever, we want everything to push out. We want the fever to push out the pathogen. We want the body to release the heat. And we want to have that sweat and fever, and astragalus will inhibit that. So make sure that you don't have that when you have a flu or beginning a fever. Now, both the goji berry and astragalus you can do with just bring up 1 or 2 cups of water to a boil, add them for about 7 to 10 minutes, let them boil on their own. Each can stand alone, and drink it as a tea. And that way you'll still get the benefit of the goji berry for the liver and kidneys, and of the astragalus, you're going to go ahead and get that benefit for the kidney and spleen. So everything can be a tea. What's nice about combining these and having this combination is that you're getting a little bit more of we're entering more different your body in different ways. The mung beans are entering through the spleen and stomach. The astragalus is entering through the kidney and spleen, and the goji berries through the liver. So that really will help with that. So I just want to check the liver and kidney. Now, the next thing that we're going to go ahead and look at is licorice. Licorice root, you can buy it in a tea. You can buy it like they have it in little tea bags, and that would be fine. If you're going to be using the root, what's nice is it hasn't been as processed, and you're going to just, we know for a fact from the 2,500 years of pharmaca how this form will work versus the powdered or the tea. When you have this licorice root, you will take about 10 grams, which would be about, probably this size stick, which is about 2-inch sticks. It would be about 3. And you would boil those in water, bring water to a boil and let it steep for 10 minutes with that. And that is remarkable for a sore throat and for lung congestion. If you're coughing with clear to white phlegm, you don't want it yellow or green, because those are the recipes where you need to do the radish and cabbage. But if you're coughing with clear to white phlegm and you have a scratchy sore throat, or you just have a sore throat, or your lungs feel tight, licorice is amazing. After you bring it to a boil and let it boil for the 10 minutes, then let it cool just to warm, not at boiling, but once it's at warm, you can add honey. And the honey is, again, super moistening for the lungs. We've talked about this with that lemon, ginger, and honey recipe. What's nice about licorice is it doesn't generate as much heat as ginger. Ginger can be very hot on the body, and if you have a hot constitution or are grappling with any heat issues, you'll notice I'm stirring this every once in a while. That's just to bring out the broth, to let the broth come out. The green of the mung beans as that's simmering. So the honey combines with the benefit of the licorice to moisten and clear and soften the lungs. Another great way to do that we have is this rock sugar. Rock sugar is different than regular sugar, as we've said before, because it's not as processed, and it is incredibly moistening. If you're using rock sugar instead of honey, you would add about it's about a teaspoon size rock to the cup to 2 cups of boiling water with your licorice, and you would let them cook together for 10 minutes. The effect of the rock sugar is to moisten and clear. So lungs need to be at just the right level of moisture. If they're too dry, they can get the phlegm stuck, and it's hard to move. You don't have a productive cough. And if they're too damp, heavy with thick phlegm, then you can't breathe and you're coughing up this very dark phlegm. And that's when they get too hot. So it really needs this perfect microbiome inside your body for the lungs to do their job. It's quite remarkable that they work as well as they do. All right, well then we're going to move on to lotus seed. We have a wonderful little lotus seed recipe. We've met the lotus seed before for one of our beauty broths. I'm going to hold it like here. And we put it with jujubes and the tremella mushroom. You can do it though on its own, where you just kind of make a broth, or a wonderful breakfast is you do millet. Millet is incredibly nourishing. It's a grain that just has such, again, a complex amino acid structure that nourishes the body. It enters and has such a cooling, calming effect. We have the jujubes. So you can have the whole jujubes, or you can have them sliced, where they come pre-sliced, so you don't have to worry about the pit inside. So it's a porridge that you will make. And for the porridge, you're going to take about 4 cups of water, and you can put everything in all at one time. You'll add your water. You'll add, this is for one person, it will be half a cup of millet. If you have 2 people, do a cup of millet or more. You'll adjust accordingly. And you'll add the lotus seed, and it will be 10 lotus seeds. And you'll add the jujubes. And the jujubes, Chinese dates, you would do about a 1/4 cup of the slices, or 3 of the whole jujubes, just the way they come. And you're going to bring that to a boil and stir. After it comes to the boil, you will go ahead and turn it down to low immediately and put a lid on it and let it cook for 30 minutes. Make sure to check it, because millet can absorb water really quickly sometimes. It depends on your atmosphere. If it's very dry in your home or moist, it actually can affect how the millet cooks. The same with oatmeal and grits or polenta. It really, all of those can be affected by the humidity and also the altitude. So just check and make sure how it looks, and add extra water if you notice it's drying out and there's still quite a bit of cooking time left. Just make sure you do that. Now, the benefits of the jujubes are they reduce liver heat. And liver heat can come from if you're feeling frustrated, anxious, angry. It can also come if your spleen is weak and it's just creating some, the liver and spleen aren't getting along, is what they say. They're kind of fighting with each other. And that can lead to heart fire. And heart fire can make it so you have insomnia, you get forgetful, your memory is reduced, the ability of your memory is reduced. And by having the millet with the lotus seed and jujubes, you can, in kind of like, it's this very specific pathway to calm the liver in a way that calms your mind. So really super beneficial. One of the things you can also do is, if you just want to do a tea, is boil 10 lotus seeds, or 10 grams. Comes to about a gram per lotus seed. Boil that for about 20 minutes, and then add 2 teaspoons of honey once it comes down to warm temperature. And you drink the broth. You can eat the seeds also, but you don't have to. They come out as a very nice, nutty texture. Well, not like almost like a roasted chestnut. If you haven't had it before, a little less chewy. So it's just a really delightful texture. That is the wonderful thing there. This recipe is super great for sleep. If you tend to be the kind of person that falls asleep and then wakes up in the night and has a hard time getting back to sleep, especially if you're waking between 1 and 3 in the morning, that liver window, this millet, jujube, and lotus seed is incredible recipe for that type of insomnia. You wake at that time because that heart fire, right? Your brain turns on again. It gets going. You haven't brought the energy back down to your center for the night. And that's where Qigong helps, right? It helps our energy go out in the day and come down and settle at night. And food will help that as well. We're going to go ahead now and do lily bulb. This is another powerhouse food. Oh my gosh, it's just incredible. You can buy it in packages dried. It's one of the ingredients that was on the list. And it is just great to add in those breakfasts. You can add it in the breakfast. It's also wonderful to cook with rice or glutinous rice. Glutinous rice, it's a little bit more processed and easier to digest. But you'll literally just cook the rice like you do, and you'll add the lily bulb, whether it's in your rice cooker or you're boiling the rice. You're going to go ahead and just add that to that. And what is so remarkable about the lily bulb is that it also enters the lung. If you've been coughing, if you have asthma, if you have felt short of breath, that you haven't been able, as we do those deep abdominal breaths all the time, it's really amazing to add that. And it fights fatigue, that where you get tired and you crash and you burn. And the reason that happens is when we cannot breathe deeply and take really good nourishing breaths, then we do not get enough of our qi into our body. Because remember, qi comes from food, air, and congenital qi with which we're born. And if we're not getting enough of air and our airway is clogged, then we're going to be fatigued because we don't have enough qi to make blood. The blood isn't flowing. Our qi isn't flowing. We get fatigued. We have boom, 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 right? Like everything trickles out from that one problem. So keeping your lungs clear is super important, and lily bulb is a great one to do that. And you would just literally make your rice like you make a normal rice recipe. I would add extra water though to make it more of a porridge and cook it longer. So instead of just cooking the rice for 20 to 30 minutes, cook it almost an hour, starting with 4 cups of water and adding water as needed to let it be a nice rice porridge. And the lily bulb cooks the entire time with it, and that makes it just super nourishing. So I'm going to go ahead and serve up the mung beans and goji berries so you can see. It definitely would need to cook, ideally a little bit longer, but I'm going to just show you what the broth looks like. And this mung bean broth is an incredible recipe for beauty. It makes you look so beautiful. Your skin is gorgeous, and it's just really, really wonderful broth for that. If you just do boiled mung beans and then drink the broth, it's just really nice. Okay. Is this stuff that's helpful that you guys like? Is this kind of cool and good to learn some of these things?
Very much so.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Then
thank you. And
I will. Huh?
I'm sorry. Would you just then drink the broth or would you eat the beans also?
So if this cooked longer, you would let it cook for like another 20 minutes or so. You would eat it. You would eat the like a soup. You would do the mung beans and the goji berries. And here, yeah, I don't think I can tip it without it spilling over. But you get, oh, here we go. I can show you the little mung beans at the bottom, and the astragalus root is floating in there, and you would eat them. You would eat it all. So, and you can make this with rice also. What I would do, half cup of mung beans and a quarter cup of rice is what I would do. Um, oh my gosh. Yeah, well, I have another recipe that we'll save for another time. There's so many. It's like there's so much that you can do. So today, just to summarize the things that we looked at, we went ahead and we looked at helping our spleen and digestion with this astragalus, mung bean, and goji berry recipe. So really making sure that we're supporting that, as well as helping our eyes and the liver and kidney with our eyes. So that was this first recipe here. Then we're looking at, and let me kind of show you how this millet, yeah, the millet just definitely it just takes longer, so that's not going to be ready. But when we look at the millet, jujube, and lotus seed recipe, we're looking at calming your mind during the day, but especially for insomnia, to help you sleep through the night. And remember, with all food remedies, it's not like taking a medication in the West. These things heal your body over time. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to make this tonight and sleep better tomorrow. I'm going to be making this and preparing it and eating it for a while. And then over a couple of weeks, some people it might be longer, when you combine it with Qigong and acupuncture and other things, it'll be faster. But you will notice, wow, I'm sleeping through the night now. That's great. That's amazing. So that's what that one is for. And if you're slight imbalance, you could be sleeping better that night. But I just want you to be mindful. It takes time. Then our licorice for that sore throat, for that cough with the honey and the rock sugar to moisten our lungs and nourish our lungs. And then lastly, the lotus bulb and rice also to nourish the lungs, to prevent asthma and treat any of the imbalance that's going on there.